Good morning. It's been a while since we've posted a video, and I do apologize. We've been extremely busy, and I just haven't had the time, and I think editing the videos is half the battle, right? So, but we're actually making a whiskey today, and I got the boys here, Danny and Gilberto up there in the brewery here, and we're gonna make our first whiskey on our new 7-barrel system. We don't have a hammer mill, so we can't buy the less expensive corn to pulverize the big kernels of corn. I do have a malt mill, so we could buy cracked corn and mill in there, but then we would have to cook probably for like an hour and a half, 2 hours in the mash tun. And so what I did is we were making a bourbon style whiskey, but I decided to change that and do a malted whiskey. So we're doing basically 60%, I think if my math is right, 60% malt, 40% corn. We're using 200 kilos of malt, 2-row malt, and we're doing 100 kilos of maíz, and it's basically flaked corn, hojuelas de maíz, and you don't mill those, they just go right into the tank, and Gilberto will be putting that into the tank. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put two 25 kilo bags in for every one 25 kilo bag of corn or maíz. And we're gonna we have this bag right here, which is our rice rice husks. And I'm not sure we need to put it in here because of the big rake, and I think we'll be okay. But I've had bad experiences on our very first system where that corn would just become like cement. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put in a bunch of that, the rice hulls in at the same time so that it separates it a little bit so it doesn't get impacted and like cement. Now, this is, ¿cuántos costales? 12? I think we're at 12. There's 8 here, there's 4, there's 12 25 kilo bags. We are gonna go above the rake, and I know that's probably not recommended. I'm shooting for an 800 liter, 8.3% alcohol beer. And I think that's as big as we're gonna be able to go. So once we fill that up, put it in the fermenter, I'm hoping for about 800 liters. I'll probably have to fill up the kettle to 1,000 liters and then boil it off. Some people say to boil, some people say don't boil. We're not gonna boil for a full 70 minutes like we do for our beers. We're gonna go in here and boil for just a little bit and try to get rid of some of those proteins, but we're not gonna go for a full 70 minutes, and I haven't decided how long we're gonna boil. But rule of thumb, I think, is in this type of scale, make a good beer, makes a good whiskey. So that's what we're trying to do right now. And then we have our little still over here from Mile High, and that's a 200 liter still. And I believe we should distill 4 times, 800 liters, 200 liters, 4 times in here. And I'm hoping to get about 150 liters of around 120 to 110 proof whiskey. And we have new barrels coming in, 50 liter barrels, that oak barrels that aren't here yet, but I'm hoping to fill 3 of those. So here we go. We're gonna start brewing our first whiskey here at Bendita Carmelita. We had to change the name. It's still Cerveceria Carmelita. However, it was my fault. I'm the dumb gringo in this country, and you have to register the name with the federal government so that you can use the name. Well, there's another brewery in northern Mexico that has a name called Cerveceria Carmela, and they registered it and they said it's too similar. So it's kind of like in the United States where you're doing business as. So our company name is Cerveceria Carmelita, SADCV, and we're doing business as basically Bendita Carmelita, and this is our logo. So, all right, we're gonna get started. All right, here is the finished product. This is what the whiskey beer looks like. It's it's right around if it ferments to 2.6 Plato, it will be around 7.4% alcohol. If it goes down to 0, it'll be like 8.5. There's no hops in here at all. It's kind of funky. It's good. It's sweet. Basically, it just tastes like a beer without hops. So now we put the yeast in, and it should start taking off here shortly. Be ripping for the next couple days. At 80 degrees Fahrenheit, it probably should be ready by Monday, done fermenting. And then we'll get the still all cleaned up. I'm gonna do all 6 chambers. I'll take I'll leave it just like this without the death flam, and we'll do a stripping run, and then we'll do a secondary run, and that should be fun. We'll get back to distilling. All right, guys. Sorry for the long hiatus. I'll try to do more videos. I know I keep saying that, but cheers. Cheers to the next one. Morning, guys. So I was going to distill our whiskey today, and I have the still all ready to go, and I was all excited, and I really screwed up on this one. I got overly anxious. I let the beer ferment for 7 days at 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and I came in and I should have done a gravity reading yesterday before I crashed the beer, and I didn't. So I set the tank to 32 degrees last night. The tank is at 32 degrees right now, so settle out all the yeast, because I don't want to put that much yeast into the still. Try to get it all out before I start distilling. Anyway, I took a gravity reading, and we're only at 4.8% alcohol, and it has not fermented all the way out. So I'm like, if I had any more air, I'd pull it out. So I went to go and look at the package, and the package says best fermentation from 77 degrees Fahrenheit to 90. And I had it at 80 degrees. And so it was cranking for several days, and then it kind of stopped. But I have noticed this when I'm doing a lager beer, is that you may not see bubbles regularly, but it's still fermenting, and you need to check the gravity regularly. And so now I'm in a conundrum, because the tank, I don't know if you can see this, I can't switch. It's this one right here. It's 32.9 degrees. It's hot down here on the island, but how in the hell do I raise the temperature of that tank so I could re-kickstart the fermentation? I have another pack of yeast in case I need to put it in there, which I really don't want to do. But how do I get the temperature back up? And so I sat here for 30 minutes trying to figure out what can I do except wait. And will it ever get back up to that temperature? Because really the only time you can get that temperature is after you're done transferring from the kettle to the fermenter. And so I started thinking, well, what if I transfer the water that was in the hot liquor tank back into the kettle over here? Then I take that clear water and I heat it to 200 degrees, 190 or whatever, and I put that through the heat exchanger, and I reclaim that water back into the hot liquor tank, and I don't use any city water to cool it down. That way my glycol tank, which is over there, sitting at 28 degrees, is now up to 42 degrees, almost 42 degrees. So I have increased the temperature. Now it's up at 42 degrees, and I need to get that to 80. So I'm just going to keep on doing it, because right now I don't have the compressor on it for the glycol machine. So all I'm doing is taking the cold water, running it through the heat exchanger, and transferring that heat from that hot water to the glycol, so that I can raise the temperature of the glycol and then run it. I'll set the fermenter down to 32 degrees. Obviously that's not my goal, but it will open the valve and continue trying to get it down to 32, but it will actually do the reverse, because the glycol water will be at 85, 90 degrees, and thus raise the temperature of the tank. I don't know if anybody's ever done this before. I'm sure somebody has. I really don't know what to do, but I want to get it completely fermented out because I took a sip of it. It's pretty sugary still. It's still at 4.8%. The alcohol should be at like 7.5% alcohol. So just letting you know, the trials and the tribulations. Always something happens to me when I make a whiskey, and it's usually in the brew process. And I think I said on my previous video that, you know, you want to make a good beer, and that was my fault. I should have just stuck to what I've been doing, making the beer, and really applied it to the whiskey. I just thought that after 7-8 days that it would have fermented all the way out at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But, you know, reading the package, I think if I really wanted to get it fermented out in that time frame, it should have been closer to 90 degrees. Anyway, here we are. All right, so I was able to raise the temperature in the fermenter on Saturday to about 81 degrees, and I came in this morning and I still didn't see any action. So I did my same trick, you know, heating up the water, running it through the heat exchanger, and then heating up the glycol and warming up the fermenter, and I'm now at 87 degrees, almost 88 degrees in the fermenter, and it is now cooking. So we got bubbles, we got action, so it works. So I hooked up CO2 to the valve down here, and I reactivated the yeast. I did put another pack of yeast in there just in case. Never have too much yeast. And but I'm so happy because the amount of revenue off of this 850 liter tank for whiskey far outweighs the 2 packs of yeast that I put in there. But I'm glad. We should hopefully get it to ferment all the way out. I'm going to let it sit for another couple days, and hopefully we'll get down to or get up to about 7.5% alcohol. Keep you posted.